So tonight, the topic is Smart Meter for Collins, and the agenda, I'm going to be giving a presentation that's actually a little higher level on smart grid and what that eventually might mean for Fort Collins and how some of the key aspects and key kind of takeaways that hopefully you'll take away and learn from tonight, and we'd also like to get your feedback on. The rest of the evening is going to be a focus group discussion, so I hope many of you, if not all of you, have one of the little clickers or automated feedback devices, and that'll be a structured discussion, but there's also going to be time for open dialogue and open questions and things like that. So I may ask that if you do have specific questions, that we do have several times allotted for that throughout the program to wait for those times. So moving on to smart grid. So smart grid is many things to many different people, and so what we're trying to present is some of the key aspects of why we're pursuing it, what aspects, what benefits that can bring, and what choices that'll end up involving. So kind of the three phases that I'm going to focus on tonight is first, the ongoing utility modernization, sort of the next steps that we want to make in bringing our system up to more 21st century communication technologies and capabilities, and that's really where the Smart Meter Fort Collins project fits in to the discussion tonight. We're also going to be talking about local renewable energy, local green energy, how that aspect of smart grid is another component and another one of our goals over time to generate more and more renewable energy locally here right on our own system. And lastly, the kinds of choices and customer choices that this will enable over time. The Smart Energy Pioneer program is an example. We're going to go through sort of a hypothetical type of program that we'd like to offer that represents more what we'll see down the road in the future here. So in utility modernization, a little bit of a boring term perhaps, it may not be even of a lot of interest, I don't know, to many of you, but we've been modernizing and working on our system for decades and decades. Examples of this include the decisions made in the 1960s to build our system underground. So if you don't know it, our distribution system in Fort Collins is virtually 100% built underground. That was done for a couple of reasons. One was the higher reliability that brings, the less impact from weather-related kind of outages and things like that. But secondly, the aesthetic benefits of that. You drive around our neighborhoods, we don't have wires strung like you'll see in many others. So that was a kind of a far-reaching decision that was made at that time. But we also have things like the remote system monitoring through something called SCADA, which can connect some of the data from our substations and bring that back to us. We've been doing demand-side management programs since the early 80s. And many people don't realize that we've been doing remote meter reading on our largest commercial customers for nearly 20 years. And so those customers have been, those meters read generally every 15 minutes. We collect the data daily, and it's an essential part of their operations for again, those largest customers. And really what's part of the Smart Meter project we'll be talking about is in 2012 and 2013, that automated meter reading component is going to be rolled out to all of our customers, including the small commercial and residential, bringing that to the basically remaining kind of 99% of our customers. So the Smart Meter Fort Collins project itself represents new electronic meters for both electricity and water throughout our system. It's about a $32 million total cost in project, half of which was paid from a Department of Energy grant that we received as partial funding for this. In rough terms, it has about a 10-year payback on our portion of those costs, just from the operational benefits that we're getting from the automated meter reading component and a number of other specific benefits related to like accuracy of the meters, reduced truck rolls out because we have more information on the system and things like that. The bulk of the meters are going to be installed from mid-2012 through mid-2013, although there'll be a smaller portion that'll be done earlier than that to test and build out the system. So again, for our larger commercial customers, we've had meters like this in place for a very long time. So remote meter reading isn't an aspect that's new to us, but it's definitely new to most of you. And that right now we have meter readers that are walking up to your meter, getting right close to it with a device like this to be able to download and connect that information for both electric and water. So we have people walking throughout the community essentially all the time to collect that information. So some of the results that we're going to get out of this modernization step is really about our operational efficiency. So we want to help keep the potential rate increases and things that are going on with energy as low as possible through our own savings, our own due diligence on our own system. We want to keep that high reliability, extraordinarily high reliability that really helps us keep and attract some of our primary employers, our technology businesses. That's a key component. The remote monitoring speeds repair and reduces truck rolls. You know, for example, right now, how do we know when the power goes out at your house? It's when you call us and tell us the power's out at my house. So we oftentimes have trucks rolling out that may or may not be actually a utility problem. It could be a problem inside your house. And it's an example of the type of efficiencies that we can get in rather mundane types of things. Really see the smart grid as the next step, the next logical step in our ongoing maintenance, operations, and upgrades and modernization of the system. So we've talked about that aspect for a while, so I hope that's one piece that you'll take away and remember. The second one is about local green energy. So we'd like a goal of lowering the cost of adding more and more renewables locally on our system. So in generalized terms, again, the more of this and less of energy coming from traditional power plants, especially fossil fuel plants. But how do we do that? That represents some real challenges as you get to higher levels on the system. So no surprise, the sun doesn't always shine. Clouds come over all kinds of things. So even while solar energy is getting cheaper and cheaper, we've seen remarkable reductions in the cost of solar energy in about the last 5 years, nearly half the cost, maybe 40 to 50% reduction in the cost of solar. But we all know, cloud passes over while those are generating, the power output drops in seconds. It's an instantaneous connection between how much sun is falling on those. Well, we know how to balance that. We can solve that problem. But right now we do that by having what are called backup generators or peakers online, standing by ready to power up as the sun might not provide that kind of power. So with the smarter grid, the intent is that we can balance that using existing generation, using demand-side management, using other local power sources on the system, instead of adding more capacity in traditional peaking power plants. So in very simplified terms, today you have a nice solar panel, you have a nice energy efficient bulb, everything's hunky-dory. When the cloud comes over, that's going to drop again in seconds. So right now, what we do is those power plants are ready, standing by to feed that power back onto the system and make it run. So with a smarter grid, and what we can do in that same scenario when the cloud comes over is then you have a variety, a much more distributed, a much more dynamic system that can bring on either storage technologies, in this case we're showing electric vehicle, ice storage, or backup generators even, traditional fuel ones. And the point is that this is a cheaper and better way of doing it than building additional power plants. So one of the things I forgot to mention at the beginning is we're also going to talk a little bit about Fort Zed, because the local green energy, adding more renewable energy onto our system, is one of the key goals of the Fort Zed suite of projects. Fort Zed is a whole bunch of different things, but three of the key areas are about sustainable energy, sustainable economy, and sustainable community. So the first of these, smart grid research and development, there's a very specific project called the Renewable and Distributed System Integration, or RDSI. And this is a Department of Energy demonstration project, and the goal of that is to demonstrate, to actually show in real time with real equipment on a live system distributed throughout an area of the city, that we can add more renewables onto that system and balance loads by using demand-side management and traditional power generation and renewables in a dynamic mix. So that's the part of Fort Zed that is really part of our smart grid project, that particular project. But Fort Zed is also about some other things. It's very clearly about economic development, economic health. So part of the goal is to continue to develop Fort Collins as a clean energy industry cluster, bringing more primary jobs. We've got companies involved like Woodward and Advanced Energy that are a key part of Fort Zed and the projects there as well. And lastly, Fort Zed is about partnerships. So it's about kind of helping make public-private partnerships. Actually, it's a very unique set of organizations that have really formed that project with RDSI, and that we have the university, city, utility, county, local agencies, as well as private companies like New Belgium Brewing Company, Advanced Energy, Woodward, et cetera. We also have a number of sort of grassroots initiatives, such as the Fort Zed Community Energy Challenge, that represent another aspect. They're really focusing on the efficiency opportunities for our community. So we've talked about modernization as a key goal. We've talked about adding more local renewable energy and being able to do that in a cost-effective way. And the third area is about customer options and choices. So right now, or the first of these that might come is what I simply call a smart consumer type of choice. It's kind of about knowing what your bill is before you get it. Utilities in general is one of the only things we still have that the basic agreement is you use as much as you want. It's a fair price, and we'll let you know next month how much you used and what your bill is. That's not certainly how we would buy groceries or gasoline or anything else, but it is how we still do utilities. So the type of information that you'll be able to get will enable you to sort of know what that is ahead of time. Like checking the minutes on your phone plan or something like that. Now when we start talking about smart rate options, these are out a few years out. We're talking probably 2014, 2015 before some of these things might be commonly available or in place. But looking at electric vehicles, the potential to charge those in the most cost-effective way, or having solar systems and be able to get the full value out of that by being able to sell at the value of the true price of electricity. Or smart homes, when devices and appliances are starting to be available, they can do some of this for you. You say, wash my clothes as cheap as possible, and we'll walk away, it will help do that. So this Smart Energy Pioneer pilot program is conceptual. This is not something that's going to be rolling out again this year, next year, even the year after that, more than likely. But a simple time of use rate. So what many people don't realize is that there is a market and a market cost for electricity. What we don't have is the ability now to translate that into a price to anybody. So we have a flat line that goes across, and that's the average cost of electricity. We can't do anything else with the meters and the technology that we have. But if you had a rate like this in place and you're interested in owning an electric vehicle, right now you might be charging it whenever you want, nighttime, daytime, same price no matter what. Maybe that's $1 a gallon equivalent, something along those lines. With a rate option like this that actually reflects the availability, the price, the true costs of electricity, you could charge that for half the cost if you were doing it at the times when the rate structure gave you that benefit. So it's an example of, as we get more and more interesting technology and devices in terms of transportation, to be able to take advantage of that investment you might decide to make in an electric vehicle. There's a flip side, but a parallel on the production side. Let's say you have a solar system that you've either already had or considering. We have a simple net metering agreement. You can produce produce excess or balance out to the net, but we can only do that at the blended rate. Can't be any better than that. So in the case of PV, it doesn't produce at night, but you may be able to get a higher value out of that because, again, we would be able to reflect that market price that is a reality in the market back to you and be able to get better value from that. The last area to talk about is smarter homes. This is the area that's probably maybe the furthest out. We can't say exactly what's going to be out there, but there are a lot of technologies being developed in ways that almost I don't think we've imagined necessarily what those options are. I look at the things that I can do on my phone now. I wasn't even thinking about them 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Couldn't imagine some of the applications and things we do on our phones. Some of those types of things are going to be coming into the home environment as well. So some of the options, some of the results we're going to get out of these other options. First, your petunias might be happier if they're planted around the side of your house. You don't have somebody walking back there once a month. Simple things like managing your energy use. So if you're so inclined to want to know where you're at as you go through the month, what your bill might be, you'll have access to information to be able to do that. We've talked about electric vehicle charging benefits and PV system generation benefits. Again, I want to emphasize these are the medium term, going out a few years types of things. So we've talked about all three of these, and the common link between them is we can't do them with the system we have now. The modernization piece, the operational savings we get from automated meter reading, doing more effective reliability and servicing of our equipment out in the field needs to be done traditional way at the moment. Adding substantially higher levels of renewable energy, we will need more information to be able to help balance and be able to take advantage of those at much higher levels. We'll need that sort of communication ability. To provide more options for customers, we'll again need these. So the meters, again, are the foundation that helps us move forward in all three of these areas. And I hope these are the three that you'll take away and have learned something from tonight. So that was our introductory piece. And we're going to shift gears now, and I'm going to pass it over to Lynn Adams and Rebecca Scheifele. And they're helping us with the communications and outreach for this project. And Lynn will explain the use of the devices and all that kind of thing.
All right, good evening, everyone. Everyone in the back hear me? Mic's working? Great. I am Lynn Adams. I'll be talking to you tonight about your perspectives about what you know about smart meter, what you might want to know about smart meter, what you think of what John has said, what you might value going forward. First of all, does every guest here have a device? Anyone missing a device? Okay, good. We had enough to go around. What we're going to do, if you go to the next one, is we're really starting a dialogue with you. We have, traditionally the utilities has really talked a lot to its consumers. They do biannual research, they do a lot of outreach, they do a lot of educational programs in order to understand what you think, what you want, what you value, and deliver to those expectations. This is a part of kind of one of the first actually public open forums we've had about smart meter. And so we're all pretty excited about getting your perspectives, and we're going to ask some questions both in multiple choice format and in dialogue format. During the dialogue, we ask that your questions or comments be kept to 2 minutes. We will keep time on that because we have a lot of people here and we'd really like to hear everyone's opinion. And there'll be a lot of in-depth discussions possible here. We'll have to take some of those offline or even wait until we know more, to be quite honest. There's questions you might have right now that we just don't know the answer to yet. So if you'll bear with us in that. You know, if we do have to defer, what we'll use those questions for is also things that you might want more information on, so when we go forward, we can really respond accurately. On the equipment, it's pretty straightforward. Who has used this kind of equipment before? Anyone? Ah, a bunch of people, great. Okay, pretty straightforward. We're going to multiple choice. You press the button, it gives you 10 seconds, and then it compiles, and we'll get some good feedback from you. And then following each of the topic areas, have some open dialogue. What we're going to talk about tonight is what are your Any background knowledge and sources of information? Where are you getting your information to date? What are the features and topics of interest on smart meter? What is effective communication? We've been inside the utilities playing with some ideas on how would we, what's useful to say? What do you want to know about it? And so we have some concepts we really want your input on. And then some demographics, the usual stuff when you do a survey. The demographics are really helpful so that we understand exactly who's been talking to us and we don't leave out a portion of the population. And then at the end, we do have a couple invitations to participate further and engage with us in a pretty active way. So with that, we're going to start with, this is the most wordy slide, and it's kind of an eye chart. So I'm actually going to read each of the slides. But this is the one that is the most wordy, but this is a definitional question. You're going to pick one of these 5. First, devices. Smart meters are devices that enable two-way digital communication between you and the utilities. And option 2, an enabling engine for our economy, our environment, and our future. Option 3, electricity networks that can intelligently integrate generators, consumers, and those that do both in order to efficiently deliver sustainable, economic, and secure electricity supplies, including solar power, electric vehicles, and more local green energy. 4, a form of electricity network that uses digital technology to deliver electricity from suppliers to consumers via two-way digital communications. This could save energy, reduce costs, and increase reliability and transparency. 5, all of the above. And the little counter will show you have 10 seconds to vote. Okay, well, okay, so everybody got the trick question here. We were trying to kind of say, you know, what is it in general that it is? A lot of you think it's all of the above. So second question, would you strongly disagree? So the scale here is 1 is strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree. I see smart meter as an advancement in technology that is also the right thing to do, similar to when the utilities undergrounded the electric system in Fort Collins years ago. As you know, John mentioned that as well, that kind of undergrounding. And so what we have here is a distribution. Some strongly disagree, and then variety from there going forward. Next question. From what I currently understand, I think the benefits of smart meters represent a wise investment. Do you agree, strongly disagree, or strongly agree? Okay, again, strongly disagree, significant amount, all the way down to strongly, somewhat agree, and strongly agree. Background knowledge, John mentioned this. You know, we don't know, with technology, we don't know what's possible. Like when you think about PCs, when they were first introduced, I had no clue it would do what it does today or that it would do it on my phone. We didn't know our phone. The first cell phones, if you recall, they were like the size of a shoebox. Some of you might have had those. Do we even know what it might do long term, or do we have that open mind as somebody just said that, yeah, maybe it would do something else? I can see how smart meters might follow the same path as computers or cell phones. That is, the technology will evolve over time until it will be difficult to imagine how we did live without it, our cell phones, whatever. Again, we're asking for your input. Strongly disagree, somewhat disagree, neutral, agree. Okay, so kind of a more balanced, a little bit more balanced distribution. Maybe long term there's something that we don't know we would take advantage of going forward. Okay, we're going to turn to sources of information. What information, how are you getting information? To date, my main source of information about smart meter is either the national media, there's been some significant national attention to this, electronic media, including the Fort Collins website, but broader than that, regional media, Denver Post, Network TV, local media, your local paper, Channel 14, local radio, or friends, neighbors, coworkers, utilities employees. So no regional media. That's interesting. Okay, good. Okay. Next, secondary source of information. This is really the same question. May be irrelevant, but just answer it again for me if you would. What's your secondary source of information? Oh, okay, interesting. All right, good, good, thank you. Next, we're going to talk about, do you proactively seek information? And I see a couple of you are holding up maybe things you've gotten online or something. So I think some of you are proactively. So the question here is, I'm proactively seeking information about smart meters. Strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree. Which, of course, you're here tonight, so obviously you're proactive in that sense as well. So, okay. Good, and then you would go to a website. Would you go to a website to find out more if you knew of a good resource for information, be it some national resource, the local city website? Okay. Good. As we go into our dialogue, which is right now, we do have a couple utility staff present for questions that we can try to address in the time allotted. Again, if you can keep your question or comment to 2 minutes, we'll do our best to address them. And this is all input to our communications. This is really the first foray into what are you thinking, what are you asking, what do you need to know? Tell us. So what have you heard? And we will recognize people. Thank you for raising your hand.
No, we're not at all the guinea pig. There are tens of millions of smart meters that have been employed all the way across the world. In this country, it's anticipated, I believe, that the count is currently up to 10 to 12 million. It's anticipated by 2025 every meter in the country will be a smart meter. It is something utilities have been doing for years with automated meter reading, which is one-way communication. That started in the 90s. This is an advancement in that technology, and that there's now two-way communication to that meter in order to provide more and more informed information to consumers. The financial results, utility. Talking about certainly we've seen a lot of news coverage to our neighbor to the south. In 2004, 5, 6, in that area, in the mid-2000s started a project where what they did is they asked vendors to bring their equipment and that they would develop it. They then had the challenge of creating a system where all of these different disparate components had to talk to one another. And I can get more technical and happy to take that offline. But what they found was they started to have some challenges with the initial communication system that they installed, and they ended up taking fiber into almost all of the neighborhoods in that community in order to get that communication system to work. And I read a great quote from one of their project managers that basically said they call it Boulder for a reason. That created significant cost overruns in the project, along with the utility R&D component of trying to make these devices speak to one another. We're not pursuing an R&D project. We're pursuing an implementation project. Ours is a engineered and planned solution from the meter through the neighborhood area network to the work facility. We have identified the operational savings for utilities, as John alluded to. Depending on our achievement of demand response, we see anything from a 7 to about an 11-year payback for the project. Very solid operating savings that we see within utilities in order to the system. The project itself, the bids we've received so far for technology are coming in well within expectations. The project's going very well on that front.
Unskold. I've been a resident of Fort Collins for 11 years. Prior to that, I lived in Maryland, where we had Baltimore Gas and Electric, and we had time of use rate charges, which I know is your 2014-2015 plan. I guess a comment I'd like everybody to know is for. I guess we really felt that it was behavioral modification by the by BG&E or the government or whoever was behind the program, in terms of washing clothes at 10 o'clock at night to take advantage of the lower rates. Our base rates went up, so we probably would have been better off with the standard rate charge throughout the day, because by the time you wash your clothes at night and then you go to fold them, it's like 2 a.m. or so. It was very difficult. to do that. And it's one of the things that kind of stuck out in our mind with this. Any comment on the amount we're going to be paying? Is this going to cost us more money over the long term as a utility ratepayer?
Certainly in our future, we're looking at time variable rates because there's a time variable cost to electricity and electricity production. What the goal is to establish as transparent a market as possible to ensure that we are developing rate structures where consumers their fair cost of the used at a given time. So to answer your question, are you going to be paying more? I don't know. You'll have certainly opportunities to pay less to control your usage on that time of day and what the cost of producing that electricity then is and what the value of the electricity is.
Yeah, thanks. My name's Eric Sutherland. I want to get on channel 14 here. Now, we've heard twice already this evening that the return on investment of this project is in the 10-year range. And yet, the analysis that was provided to our city council when improving an ordinance that sent the electric utility into debt for the first time in 65 years was based on erroneous information. You made an estimate of a savings of $1 million a year that would be accruing immediately upon implementation of this program based on somehow improving the load profile of Fort Collins in the PRPA system. Specifically, you're saying you're reducing coincident peak demand by that much to create that type of savings. But that was just laughably erroneous. Nobody even had an estimate of what the economic value of improving the load profile would be, let alone any instrument or mechanism that would equate the adoption of smart meters within Fort Collins with the type of load profile improvement of any sort that might even get close to $1 million a year savings. Now, that information was challenged before it went to council, when it was at council, and since then, Fort Collins Utilities has knowingly, willingly withheld public records in violation of state law that produced information that proved exactly what I'm saying here. And so essentially, here's the point. You guys are bringing this forward on many, many pieces of misinformation, speculatively assuming that there are improvements or benefits that can't be proven to be accruing anywhere else in the country. Boulder's not the only example that's experimented around it. It's probably the least appropriate comparison to what you're talking about doing. And so, at what point do we get actual information? At what point do we get an objective assessment of the economic value of doing this, particularly considering the fact that in Fort Collins, we actually have the options of many other investments that might be made that would improve the operational efficiency of the electric utility and produce environmental savings and a long-term sustainability of our community. When you simply can't make those kind of assumptions, can't make those kind of predictions about the use of smart grid. And at some point, we're just going to have to ask to please stop treating the citizens of Fort Collins like a bunch of provincial fuels. We need actual information, we need actual data that supports what you're talking about. So, you can respond to that if you want, but we've been through this for a year now, and we continue to get the same sort of misinformation.
Well, thank you. You certainly have expressed that opinion multiple times, but I'd like to assure everybody else that we have presented a business case. It has been vetted by our city council. It has been voted on by our city council to... I am not going to debate you, Eric. This is not appropriate behavior for this arena. We have debated...
My name is Virginia Farver from here in Fort Collins, and I'm concerned about the health implications of this because these have been stopped in California, in La Mesa, California. And I just received this today. It says statewide in California, 38 governments opposed them in one form or another, according to the report from the stopmeters.org. And the Skeleton statement that was released February 3rd of 2011, Ole Johansen from Norway is requesting that the World Health Organization lower its EMF standards by a huge amount. And Governor Hickenlooper has declared May as Multiple Chemical Sensitivity Month. And if you look up electrosensitivity symptoms on the internet, there's numerous things that can go wrong with somebody with this exposure.
This is on. Can you hear me okay? Ms. Farber, it's nice to meet you. I'm Patty Bigner from Utilities, and I've been trying to answer some of your questions through the city's question and answer forum. So Ms. Farber has been addressing a number of concerns from citizens in Fort Collins regarding the health effect of smart meters and smart grid and other, I think, just in general, devices, electronic devices. And we have gathered a large amount of research that's been done around the city, around the country, and we're consulting right now Dr. Adrian LaBailey and Dr. Bruce, Health District, and from the Public Health in Larimer County. At this point, Dr. Cooper is still reading reports and was able to tell us that based on his general survey, that he did not determine there to be any specific danger to us from smart meter. Well, our public health officials are assisting us. I know there's concerns, and they're going to assist us in looking at some of the issues for you. So I just want you to know we're taking your concerns seriously and have been consulting with them, and we'll do our best to get some information to you.
That it was, no, my son died from brain cancer, and his neurosurgeon told us it was from his cell phone use. And I found out that he was involved in a brain cancer cluster on the San Diego State University campus. And there's a cell tower that's right outside of this building where all these people have gotten sick, and it's got Homeland Security and NASA and everything on this tower, is what I found out. But I've been involved with Ole Johansen, Susan Foster out of San Diego, Lloyd and Sam Milham from the International EMF Collaborative, and they've all, I believe Maine this year will get warning labels on their cell phones concerning this, and it's all about money is what it is. And that's bottom line, and it's either health or money. So
the information that you've been provided to us is being gathered and compiled, as well as some that we've gathered ourselves, and as we're going to be consulting with the public health officials. We're going to be talking about that a little bit in just a few minutes, I think.
Alan Turner, homeowner in Fort Collins. Would the residential electric meters be installed by city employees or contract employees? Has that been determined this early?
Our intention is we have approximately 65,000 electric meters, another 30,000 water meters to change out. We also have a significant time constraint from our grant with the DOE. So what we'll be doing is contracting out with a firm that'll bring employees in to go through the city and replace these. We have not released P yet. We still have to bid that.
Hi, good evening. I'm Michelle Martins. Lived here in Fort Collins since 1977 and happened to start doing research on this and pulled up this document. There's actually a study done by CU Boulder. If any of you'd like to get it, I'd be happy to email it to you. This particular project, I think, for all of us brings up a lot of issues. Certainly health concerns, privacy issues, return on investment. One of the things that touched me a little bit is consumer privacy. This is a two-way thing, right? There are things in this document that speak to being able to dictate, predicate, and report when you take a shower, when you turn on your security system, when you run your dryer, when you leave your home, when you return your home to put on your security system, and if it relates to the bar that you might have been in. This could dictate your insurance rates. Oh, you get home at 3 a.m. every night, you must be drinking. Your car insurance rates are now going to go up. It also puts out information out there that allows them to sell it for profit because the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply to a lot of the ways that this information is interpreted. I don't have a question, really, I have a statement. And I understand, one of the things I want to say is it's not personal, right? As we say these things, it's not about you individually, although I know you work for this company, they pay your bills, and somehow you have to buy into what they're doing. But Fort Collins, we don't have to. And I think it's really time for everyone to put their heads together and just say, you know what? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. And I don't want your meters, and I don't want my privacy infracted on. Yes, I do want to be smart about my energy, absolutely, but Fort Collins has one of the highest educated populace in the Front Range. We can figure it out. I have a smart meter in my home already. It goes off. No, my own personal thermostat. It goes off and goes down to 62 when I'm not there, and it comes on to a reasonable rate when I'm there, and I turn things off accordingly. And I'm a smart person, and I can figure this out, and so can you. And so can our neighbors, and so can everyone else. And I don't need the government to tell me how to do that. And I want, certainly I want a system that supports us and supports our needs. I don't want rolling blackouts, and I don't want all of a sudden for everything I have not to work. And I want to be able to use solar if I want to use it without having the city tell me when I want and cannot use it. But there's a lot of issues at play here, and I don't want to be spoon-fed, placated, or pacified. And please, let's do something about this before it's spoon-fed to us and we don't have a choice.
As far as I know, the Smart Meter Fort Collins project will add digital technology to electric system, water system, and both. Yeah, and part of the reason we asked that, obviously you're a fairly informed group already. A lot of them are doing electric, or some of them at least are doing electric only, so we just want to understand what level, you already were aware of on that. So next, how interested are you in the ability of smart meters? What we're going into here is a series of features of the program, and what we're interested in knowing is, do any of these have any interest in you? Which ones of these do have interest? And don't know is an acceptable answer as in any of the others, but there's a series of these. So, how interested are you in the ability of smart meters to support ongoing utility modernization and enhancement of its operational efficiency? Utility side benefits. Okay, good. And similarly, how interested are you in the ability of smart meters to provide efficient delivery of water and electricity? Efficiency is some of the things John Phelan talked about in his presentation. Okay. Next one. How interested are you in the ability of smart meters to help utilities do what they do now, but even better and more efficiently? So engaging technology to be more efficient. Okay. All right. So these are tracking, which would be expected quite closely. How interested are you in the ability of smart meters to help the city invest now to manage future costs? A little more distribution there when you talk about the future management of future potentially unknown costs. Okay, how interested are you in the ability of smart meters to enhance system efficiency? Things like fewer truck rolls, as John had mentioned. Okay, a little bit. Pretty split distribution there. It's interesting. How interested are you in smart meters' ability to support remote meter reading? Again, even more remote than the handheld device, the actual, truly remote meter reading. Okay. So it tracks with the previous. Okay, what's next? How interested are you in the impact of smart meters on increased reliability? System reliability. Your lights are always on, water's always running. Okay. And next one is what about early leak detection? As it is now, the water system, it's not a lot of warnings that there's a leak going on. This would provide that. What about early leak detection on the water side? Okay. And better job of outage management. I think John mentioned, how do the utilities knows it's your service is out because you call them. That would not be the case with a smart meter. Is that of any interest? Vary all the way to don't know. Okay. And then John talked a bit about accommodating green energy, more renewable and green energy, the ability to accommodate that because of the technology of smart meters. What's your interest level on that? Okay. So hopefully we'll hear a little bit about that in the questions as well. I'd be real curious if that one came up with some higher level of interest than the previous. How about accommodating emerging technologies such as electric vehicles? It's kind of interesting how much kind of popular media attention is getting paid to electric vehicles these days, and makes me think something's on the horizon there. So any interest there? Okay. All right. And enhanced green options like rooftop solar. What is your interest level in that? Couldn't get more evenly split than that. How about applying new technology to make your life easier? We can think of examples from the past. I mean, sometimes we think our technology makes our life easier, cell phones, computers. So nobody thinks technology is all that helpful. That's okay. Good. Next, what about reducing outdoor water use, giving you signals so that you can manage your outdoor irrigation? Okay. All right. Next one. What about new customer choices and options? And this is really one that's kind of that catch-all for, we don't know what it might be in 10 years, but something will evolve, just the way it has with these other technology devices we've talked about. Okay. All right. And what about, and somebody mentioned this already, signals so that you can use electricity when it's cheaper through time of use rates. Interest level in that. Peak, off-peak type of pricing. A little more interest there. Okay, good. And how smart would you like a smart meter to be? And there's different levels of smart, more or less. Monthly total usage, which is just like today. Daily total usage, which would give you a little more of a signal about what's going on a real-time basis on which you could make decisions, or more detailed usage, kind of the fully enabled, more detailed usage. Okay, another thing that would be interesting to hear more about when we get into the dialogue part, the interest in maintaining monthly data versus more timely data. Okay, this is a ways out. You know, and we really want to be clear, you know, a couple years out, this stuff isn't happening. But again, like the analogies we've been using, over time, the enabling platform that is smart meters makes it possible to do other things like these. Over time, what, if any of these would be of interest to you, or you don't know, or not applicable, or none, you could take that to be? No, just one per. Yeah, you can only choose one per. Okay? Good. All right. Kind of just mentioned the answer to this, but how long will it be before such capabilities are available to you as customers? The previous slide I'm referring to, plug-in vehicles, smart appliances, home area networks. Yeah. Good. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of, I kind of spilled the beans on that one before I got to it. But it's true. You know, we are not really looking at these things. There's a lot to be done, as Steve Katnack was mentioning, that has to happen before these real benefits are actually realized. So, okay. Discussion. We're going to do another 15, 20 minutes here. Let's talk about smart meters and what they can do for you. What are your near and long-term interests? What capabilities? What are your concerns? All the things that are on the table, including those from the gentleman I had. Wait, could you please state your question now?
Meters or whatever that is, then you would be okay with a tiered approach to electricity, I would hope. Absolutely. So those people that are in the crowd that don't believe in this sort of technological advance should be okay with some sort of tiered electric approach. Absolutely? Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
Cell phone, I think it'll tell anybody where I am, but if I get kidnapped, they could perhaps find me. So I'm not so worried about whatever. 2, we're already using it in Fort Z area, I think. I approved not using my air conditioner from 4 till 7, and I got a credit of $40 or so from the utility company. This is here and now. I don't need to use my air conditioner from 4 to 7. I also got a new dishwasher, and I was wondering why there is this little button you can push to delay for 5 hours. Now that's probably what it's all about. I'm not interested in a whole bunch in another coal-fired plant that kills the fish in all of our places, and I think that we really need to be serious about trying to level out our usage if it's okay. And it's okay with me, and I kind of don't like people criticizing when they don't know what you can do with it. Thank you.
My name is Wes Bolton. I've lived here, I think, just about as long as anybody has. I have not a question, but 2 comments. Number one, if I recall the cost numbers, $32 million, but it's going to be subsidized by a $16 million government grant or something in those ranges.
Pretty close, yeah.
The money we're getting from the federal government is not free. This is money that we're still going to have to pay taxes on. And the current attitude in Congress is that the government costs are going to be reduced. And so the $16 million is not free. The second, backed up the lady that just spoke, the information that is going to be 2 ways. Right now, we understand that people can track where you are by your cell phone. And I'm not sure that's a good thing in the long run.
I'm just wondering how the meters work. Is there, are they through the internet, or is it sent through the electrical wires? Is the installation just a matter of pulling out the old meter, putting a new meter in, and they're done, or what?
The installation involves taking out the old meter, putting a new one in. The new one will have a communication card in it that will send a signal 4 to 6 times a day or less than a second to a collector in the neighborhood. The collector in the neighborhood will then put that into a distribution wide area network that'll broadcast it back through our substations onto our fiber network and then back into the utility service center. No, it's a wireless, like this microphone.
Rather than being an all or none scenario, why can't this be voluntary? Where those who want it can have it, those who don't want it don't have to engage in this.
The technology itself needs other meters, the electric meter that broadcasts it back. So we need to ensure that we have a network in order for the entire project to work. And I'm happy, I think we may have brought some drawings. We were trying to get some put together to visit with you after. The challenge becomes the density of the communication network. If it gets too distributed, too wide an area, it won't work. We brought a picture, so it's much easier to explain the mesh network and how it ensures communication. I'm hoping we brought a picture.
I have a 3-part question. How many jobs will be lost by the installation of smart meters? How many of those lost jobs will you be able to employ elsewhere at the same rate, so to speak? And number 3 is, what if you don't have water through your utility company? You just have the electricity. Thank you.
I'm going to start with the first one. The jobs being lost are approximately 12 meter readers that the city had. One of the benefits of a long-term project, that this has really been going on since 2009, and the system will be in 2013, is we've been able to take the opportunity to support our employees by offering enhanced education opportunities. My hope is that by supporting these employees, we not only help them find other jobs, that through education opportunities, we help them find better jobs. Of the dozen employees that we started with, so far 6 of those found employment in the city, employment elsewhere. Of this We have backfilled those positions with what we call hourly employees. Those employees have come on board with a clear understanding that the job goes away. It's a short-term job till 2013. And my hope is by the time we reach the end of this project, the remaining 6 employees are all employed in a better position, be it in the city or elsewhere. But we're helping them do that. If you receive water from somebody else, then they have ways of reading those meters. For instance, Fort Collins Loveland Water District already has an AMI system in place and are reading those meters remotely. Other water districts they send out. So the two don't necessarily have to go together.
Are you still good?
Hi, I'm Anna Keister. I'm a student at CSU, so maybe it's just that I don't understand enough about this and I haven't learned enough. But I don't understand or see the exact point of a smart meter other than the fact that it would be easier to know when you're using electricity, but I don't see how it's going to make it a greener city, because are we not going to be able to use electricity at certain times? Or I guess maybe I just don't know enough about that. But
the support is to the installation of renewable distributed resources on the system. As we start to see, this microphone's terrible, as we start to see more and more solar panels go out right now, the president has set a goal that the price of solar panels will be $1 a watt to manufacture 2015. What we anticipate is we'll see much greater adoption rates of distributed generation, which backfeed into our system at certain times of day. So as we talk about smart grid, the provide better information to us on how our system is operating, so manage higher levels of those distributed generators, solar panels. I'm sorry. Distributed generation is, Patty wants me to clarify because I'm a technocrat. Is things like solar panels. Historically, our electricity has been built for electricity from a central power plant. It hasn't necessarily been designed for multiple sources to feed into it. Having better information about our grid operations helps us do that.
Hi, my name's Stephanie Jerkowski. I'm a student at CSU also. I don't live in Fort Collins, and I'm purely observing this as a student up here and a resident from Denver. But one question I do have is this is a two-way communication system, and information is being transferred and logged at some point. What happens if the system goes down, and maybe it's just not me knowing enough about it, but what happens if there's a break in the system and that information is not being logged?
You know, certainly this is our cash register, so we are, the systems are designed to ensure the integrity of the data. In the meter, it has memory, and it'll hold, I'm going to say 30 to 45 days of data in that meter, so that if the communication system fails, then we have a way of retrieving that data and calculating the bill and sending that out. Don't worry, we'll always be able to bill you. Well, that is the business we're in. You know, and also the system has backup means, backup systems. We're certainly trying to ensure the integrity. Just like today, if a meter fails, we may lose bits of data. But
having only one party be accountable for that information, it just seems like that should be available. Is that published anywhere publicly?
No.
Why is that?
We take customer privacy very seriously. We always have. We have certainly ordinances in place, but we have vital information on customers and their usage, and we don't release that. The customer has to give us permission to do that, except in rare instances where law enforcement may request that information.
And my only other part of this is if there's a discrepancy, who do they go to? Is there a systematic process in place that any type of discrepancies would be addressed? Because I'm sure that they're going to be, you know, they will arise at some point with people with issues that may come up. Do you guys have any type of panel or any system in place for people to address those issues openly?
You mean like bill disputes
Absolutely.
And questions? We certainly do. We have those issues that come up today, and we handle with them and have a methodology, and that certainly is a process in place already.
Thank you. My name is Phil Friedman. I live here in Fort Collins. I had a question about the EMF or RFI frequencies that might be released, or not released, but might be emitted by smart meters. Given the fact that we live in a world that is filled with RF energy, nonstop, 100% of the time, in this room alone, there's 3 sources of RF energy. If I go onto my wireless router, I can find 6 other wireless routers within the range of my house. Many of us don't realize it, but we live in a world filled with EMF and RFI. I'm not necessarily saying that's good or bad. I'm certainly not an expert in that field, far be it. But I really wonder how the addition of smart meters on an individual house would really have an overwhelming detrimental effect, given the fact that our world is already swamped with RFI. And so I can't imagine that the addition of one other device is going to be enough to break the camel's back. We're not going to have that device against our head or against our body. It's going to be separated from our living quarters by a brick or a wooden wall with some distance, the same distance that our meter is right now. My utility meter is on the outside of my utility room. I'm nowhere near that room on a regular basis. In fact, I would guess I'm in that room maybe 5% of my life, maybe not even that. So I was just wondering how you might comment on that.
Thank you, Phil. The meters are very low power. They're about 1/4 of a watt. Your cell phone, if you think about it, checks in every few seconds with the tower, sends out a broadcast. The meters themselves will send out and check 6 times a day for less than a second. So it's a very, very low duty cycle that they'll be broadcasting. And the meters themselves are very low power as well.
Okay, let's move on. We do have another open dialogue session at the very end. I think we're going to run through the rest of these fairly quickly so we can get to it. See, there's a lot of hands still up. So we're going to run through these really quickly, allow 10 seconds, and just flip through them so we can kind of capture the information and then get to our dialogue. So what we're talking about now is how do we effectively communicate? We really do want some input on this. And these are statements do they make sense to you? Do they appeal to you? Do you like them at all? Consistent with being a forward-thinking utility, again, the undergrounding before it was popular and really doing things that think about the utility in a long-term way. Smart Meter Fort Collins forms a foundation to support, inform, and empower our community. What I'm asking you now is from a communication standpoint, does that make sense to you or appeal to you? Very, very appealing or sensible? 1, not so much. 4. Okay. All right, let's move on, like I said, real quickly. Then we have this whole theme around, right now it's pretty basic, the whole idea that first deployment of a technology is often not the whiz-bang, oh my gosh, great, go ahead and click it. Is that appealing on the scale? Very appealing to not at all appealing? Okay, good. Similarly, this will be, smart meter will use information and technology to maintain high system reliability. That will be done in part by improving the ability to provide and restore electric and water service. Appealing, of interest, makes sense, is a 1 if it's very, and 4 if it's not at all. Okay. And what about the following statement? Makes utility operations even more efficient and cost-effective over time by optimizing system efficiency and managing infrastructure. Really, it's the underlined statement that I'm focusing on. The example in the bullet is really just to give a little more background. Okay. And what about this one on providing timely customer service solutions, such as quick start, stop of service, turn on, turn off, high usage alerts, any variety of customer service solutions? Okay. And prepares the community for the future, emerging technologies, renewable generation, plug-in hybrids, that array of things we're starting to see on the horizon. Okay, interesting. And when it comes to new technology, the following statement best describes you. And we've really tried to array these from eager to use it, love new technology. I was the one in line for the iPhone when it came out. I camped out in front of the Apple store. That's number 1, eager to use it, somewhat of a pioneer. 2, I'm too busy to spend much time on it. Probably not much of you self-selected to come here, but too busy to spend too much time on it, keep it invisible. I don't want to be bothered. I'm busy. 3, reluctant to adopt until it's proven. Could go either way, depending on, it's like some of the questions we've had. Bless you. And highly unlikely to see it as beneficial. Okay, good. And on our discussion points here, where we'll get to our last segment here, where we can have a lot of Q&A, 15, 20 minutes, and then we do have an array of demographic questions again, just so we know who's here, who's been talking to us. But let's talk about how we communicate, actually, or anything else. You've had great questions and things that we need to know are on your mind. So right now, the segment was on how do we talk about this effectively? What comes to mind when you read those statements? What kind of additional information would you like to see? What makes this information real or useful to you? Or any other questions you might have.
Got sort of a comment and question, and 2 of them, actually. One is very general, and I happen to believe that we are changing climate and so on. And I also would like to do things that would help that, and economically. And one of the most economical things we can do, and it's been done in certain places, a few in the US, I think. I lived in Germany at one time. It was done there for maybe 50 or 60 years at least. And that is how to spread the power load. And that's obviously one of the things that's been pushing this, but it hasn't been mentioned at all. We have the highest power loads in most of the US on summer afternoons when people are using air conditioners and so on. So we should some way figure out how to not build lots of power plants just to handle the peak loads. And that's obviously what this is about, but hasn't been talked about very much. Can we reach, a lot of people are obviously against these. Can we reach the goal of better spreading our power load, but we have to some way do it by charging people for using in power peak, or charge peak power cost all day long or something, or else we have to do something analogous to this. So that was a general statement. I don't think we want to all build power plants that are expensive just for the peak power time. And so something needs to be done about that. And maybe this isn't the right way of people. Now I'll turn to a very specific, concrete thing. I happen to feel good about concrete examples. What if I add solar panels to my house and they happen to work best at the very peak load time? Am I going to see some kind of gain by adding an expensive thing which works best at the time that power ought to be most expensive but isn't right now?
Certainly a complex question to try and address simply. But, well, certainly the answer would be, are we going to start charging you more for missing that peak or avoiding that peak? The hope is really to express the fair cost of electricity at times when it's more expensive. So if you're eliminating or reducing your load at that time, you would be saving money. And certainly the fundamental goal is to be able to provide customers with more information and better information so they can make decisions. So if you know that you're approaching an expensive period of the day and what your usage is and can see the effect you're having, we put you in control of that. Right now, you don't know till the end of the month. I hope that answered it. If not, I'm happy to take a deeper conversation offline.
Are we going to have real people making them?
They're all real people.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but
people that pay taxes here.
Let me turn to some of the staff and assistants I have in the back, because we've interviewed a lot of vendors. We're in negotiation with one right now, and I'm trying to recall where their meters are manufactured. So Melissa, if maybe you could pass the microphone over to Dennis or Mark. The one thing about the meters is certainly they have electronic parts in them that are manufactured all over the world. Where they are assembled is...
The vendor that we're going to be buying the meters from is a company named Elster, and the meters are assembled in North Carolina.
I just wanted to say, I think people save money, not meters. I think everybody wants to you know, just save money any way they can anyway right now. But I have a question. When my son was sick, my house was full of kids that flew back from San Diego. I had my relatives, my parents, my husband's parents, my brother-in-law and his family, hospice counselors, workers, nurses. My house had people in it 24 hours a day. I had people moving in and out of the house. And I just want to know why, you know, my son was ill, and there's people with chronic illnesses that need to have their air conditioners and things, and I think it's going to punish them. I really do. And also cell phones, cell towers, Wi-Fi, smart meters all emit non-ionizing radiation, and if it says protection against non-ionizing radiation, it says distance from the source, reduction of irradiated time, and physical shielding. So that should answer if it's safe or not.
We're going to quickly go through these demographics. Not answering is always an option. And then we'll just wrap up with some more Q&A, time permitting. So, age, pretty normal demographic question, if you could answer that one. Okay, next one. Highest level of education, or whatever's closest. It's not an exhaustive list, just trying to get a feel for typical demographic questions. Great. And then gender. This is one of the easiest questions of the evening. Good. The next battery is really about electronic media and technology you use, so we can maybe understand how to best communicate with everyone. You access the internet multiple times per day, once per day, 2 to 3 times, less than once a week, rarely or never. Yeah, that's consistent with, yeah. So I use Facebook. Do you? Yes or no? And not answering is an option if you don't feel like you want to. I said, here's the electron. I don't even know how to do this. So receive and send tweets through Twitter. Who does that? Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, you got to know. You got to figure the answer to this one's probably pretty skewed too. YouTube. Who views YouTube videos? Only if somebody sends you the link. I don't know. That's a good question. Okay, okay. Visitor posts, somebody just mentioned blogs. Who visits or posts blogs? Ah, okay. Okay, these are real quick battery. Desktop computer, who still uses that? There is a laptop question, so if you're a laptop user, this would be a no. You can answer yes to both. Okay, what about next one's laptop? Who's laptop users? Okay. Okay, cell phones. Answer no to this one if your cell phone device is actually a smartphone, because there's a separate question on that. Or a refuser, say no. And then how about a smartphone? Who's got the iPhone itch? Okay, interesting. Okay. How about iPads, tablets? I'm tracking right with all of you, it seems. Do you own or regularly use a GPS navigation system, either in your car or a portable one? Or hiking, I guess. Okay. And what about a home wireless network? Okay. Good. And then thank you for answering those. I know people are sensitive about them. If you didn't want to answer, that's fine, but it really does help us understand what vehicles to use to get information communicated and received. So one of the things we're doing, probably several of you might participate in internet survey panels from service providers or retailers that you frequent. And Utilities is considering setting one up to gather insight in an ongoing way so we can continue this kind of dialogue, understand what the questions are. And so our simple question here is, would you be interested in participating in such an internet survey panel where you get a survey, you respond, they're usually fairly brief and quick. Is there a clarifying question on that? Yes. Oh, no. No, not going to happen. No. Okay, so that was interesting. And then the Smart Energy Pioneer program that John Phelan in the opening presentation briefly mentioned, kind of to be determined, but somebody who would really like to explore the options and be a pioneer in this, yes, no, or maybe. Okay, and so for those last two, if you are interested, please stop by the back desk. We have sign-up lists. We would love to continue hearing from all of you, all of the different voices and perspectives. There is a website set up, fcgov.com/smartmeter, as noted here, if people can read it. That will be a place where information is posted, as well as a lot of other different kinds of way to communicate. We do have a few minutes left, which we could either say is the break we didn't take, or maybe more importantly, I think if there's a couple last questions, if anybody had a question they did not get answered, I'd like to take those now.
Yeah, I have a question about the solar panels. I really didn't understand how that would be implemented as far as the smart meter goes. I was debating for some time here whether to put solar panels on my house to kind of get away or get off the grid. Are solar panels something that is going to be monopolized by Fort Collins utilities like my rainwater is monopolized? I'm going to be forced to have to be on the grid or pay money to be able to have solar panels? Or can I be independent here within Fort Collins? Thank you.
Oh, you certainly can be independent. Right, there's absolutely no restriction. You want to go out and add solar panels to your roof, and you're free, and please do.
Hi, I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background on why the smart meters and maybe some of the, can you talk about the United Nations and they've got an Agenda 21 for implementing smart meters. I guess they've started in Europe, and they're now influencing a lot of what's going on here in the U.S. I was wondering if policy is being set by the UN guidelines.
No, absolutely not. The city of Fort Collins is a utility that is looking to be a progressive utility to support the wants of our customers, to provide better information. We certainly have goals that have been established by our city council, carbon reduction being one of them. This was actually identified in our carbon action plan as one of the strategies to getting towards that goal.
I have two questions. One, can we opt out of this program? And two, you talked about collector panels. Where are they going to be located? On houses or in a certain area?
I didn't catch the last part of the question.
Where are the collector panels going to be located? Are they on individual houses, or are they at a central location somewhere?
The kind of solar panel installations we've been talking about this evening are primarily for use on your rooftop. Not solar. Oh, the smart meter. I'm so sorry. I completely misunderstood. And Steve told me that it was solar.
You're right. It's my fault. Yeah. The neighborhood area network collectors will be on top of streetlight poles.
So we're at the beginning stage of this program and trying to understand what our community is looking for from us. And we have been talking about providing a variety of options to our customers. And at this point, we don't really have that solidified. But I think some of the information that we've received tonight will be helpful to us in determining that. And I do think there may be some limited ability to opt out. So that's what we've talked about at this point.
My name's Mike. I have kind of a slew of unrelated questions. I really don't know much about the Fort Collins electric system, but I've heard it's one of the best in the nation. And so I wonder if smart meter is going to be like a good thing like the undergrounding, or whether it's going to be like the blue screen of death that we see on Windows. And some of my questions are like, what's the mean time between failures on our current meters, on the new meters? What's the difference between when our old meter fails and the smart meter fails? Will information like this be posted on the city website or someplace where we can easily see these compare and contrast on all these things so we know what we're getting? When you factor into the costs and the environmental impacts, are you considering the fact that you're buying the chips in Taiwan, shipping them to North Carolina, and then back to Fort Collins, as opposed to just shipping them to, say, California to be assembled and then off to Fort Collins? How often are we going to have to replace these cards that are coming in our meters, and do we do that, or does the utility do that? I have all kinds of questions along those lines that I would like the city to be more proactive about sharing with us, because a lot of my concern really is because there's no data and no information. I also have some questions about things like, can I view my data in real time or near real time as it's being provided? Talk about the failure modes, and you kind of said we can always bill you. And then I think about 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Japan. They all had failure plans that they didn't anticipate. So I'm not sure I can trust that kind of answer. And what happens when we all go to e-cars at night? Now all of a sudden our peak shifted to night instead of the day. Do we all get billed? And for the rates, are there going to be a government bureaucracy to set these, or is it going to be a pure pass-through of actual wholesale costs? And the other thing I wanted to say is you showed a slide in the beginning session that showed peak hours being really wide compared to the whole day, but the ones I've seen from the Power Authority and the City of Fort Collins show the peak being between 1 to 3 hours. And your slide seemed a little misleading there, showing it at almost half the day or so. Thank you.
I believe you asked one of our council members a question, and I have an answer that I received, a draft answer on the mean time between failure and all of that information. So would be happy to try and read that to you offline here, or get with you to go through your questions, because they are multiple, and we'll take some time here.
How serious has the city been about discussing and thinking about just the tiered rates that I spoke about earlier? I mean, it gives the opportunity to be able to opt out of the program. At this point, I don't have any problems with what I see with the smart meters, but it also gives those people in the audience a chance to opt out. But everybody pays a tiered rate. I mean, I think that's the way you discourage overuse. I really do. Both, though, a tiered rate plus the smart meters and ability to opt out.
So if I understand your question correctly, you're asking what are we doing about developing rates that will go along with this kind of technology. And Utilities has a couple of council work sessions coming up. The first one is May 10th, and the second one I think is June 14th, if I remember them accurately. The first one, we're going to talk about a rate design philosophy. And at that time, we're going to be going through the principles and trying to develop an alignment between all of the plans that the city has, all of the policies, all of the objectives that we have to meet the needs of our community, and how those would be used to develop a rate design. So that's the first one. And the tapes, I think, for those presentations are going to be available probably toward the end of next week, and then the work session will be on the 10th. So that'll be a discussion of how to go about doing it. And then the second work session is in June. I think the second week of June, and I'm pretty sure it's the 14th. And at that time, we're going to talk about how we would go about implementing rate options for the community. So there'll be more discussion on that. And I don't know the exact date when the tape will be available for that one, but there'll be some background information on the internet, as always, in preparation for those, and you can watch the televised council session. Tiered rates are going to be discussed, a variety of different ways of using a price signal to kind of supplement what you get in the information from your smart meter system. I'm not sure that we have discussed that exact scheme for doing things, but it's a good thing for us to talk about. So thank you for bringing it up.
My question relates to that they said that of the meter readers that were 15, now 6 are not now working. Does that mean some smart meters have already been installed, and how many, or what percentage?
0. What we have done, because this has been a long-term planning process, is assist our meter readers in education and finding other jobs both throughout the city and outside. We've backfilled those with hourly employees that are very aware that it's a temporary job that goes until 2013. So we still have 12 meter readers, but of the original 12 we started with that were full-time city employees, we're down to half of those now.
We'll call that it for the night. Thank you so much. Please leave those clickers on your way out. Don't put them in your pockets. And if you want to sign up and help us out with Pioneer Program or Internet Survey, we would love to continue to have your opinions. Thank you.